welcome to Sharing the Light. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Sharing the Light. If you'd like to watch previous episodes of Sharing the Light, we invite you to visit our cathedral website at www.sunshinecathedral.org, where you can find other wonderful topics from Sharing the Light being discussed. But in this Sharing the Light, I would like to invite you to join our senior minister, the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins, with guest Reverend Kathy Alexander, and also Reverend Cindy Lippert, as they discuss prayer and healing. So let's listen now to their discussion on prayer and healing.
Well, thank you for joining us today for Sharing the Light. We have, I've got two guests with me today. One, the Reverend Kathy Alexander, who's from Metropolitan Community Church in the District of Columbia, D.C. I think this is her first time to be with us on this show. And then we've got the Reverend Cindy Lippert from Two Mules, Arizona. What's the name of the town? Cave Creek, Arizona. And she is a frequent guest on Sharing the Light. So she's you know her. So we, Kathy is ordained in the Metropolitan Community Churches. Cindy is ordained Divine Science. She's also a former Unity minister, former president of the International New Thought Alliance, and so. And I'm Durrell. I'm here all the time. So that's who we are, and we're talking about prayer for the next few episodes. And today specifically, we're talking about prayer and healing. And so there is a lot of thoughts, a lot of feelings about prayer and healing. There are I remember the old prayers from Catholic days, where you basically pray to sanctify your illness, or you pray that that your suffering somehow benefits somebody else, or that it brings you closer to God, or that there's that. And then there are sort of I remember from the old sort of liberal Protestant days, where a minister would pray for comfort, or for strength, or if it is God's will for something good to happen. It's kind of it's like, the bar is set pretty low as far as expectations with those kinds of prayers. And then there's sort of the Pentecostal faith healing, word of faith, sort of, name it and claim it. And if you just have enough faith, and if it doesn't work out, then there's some nefarious force that's working against you and just got the upper hand somehow. And so it's all about this sort of battle. And if you're well enough armed, you'll win your fight. And then, of course, there's sort of the new thought. There's the Christian Science idea that it's just all BS anyway. That everything is perfect, so anything that's showing up that's not perfect is an illusion. So it's about getting back to living the truth, experiencing the truth. Mm-hmm. And then there's the new thought sort of thing that we manifest good or bad, but so it's about aligning yourself with the good and letting it. So all of these ideas. When you pray for healing, either in your own body or for somebody else, what is your, does prayer trump medicine? Does it complement medicine? Does medicine complement the prayer? Are you trying to comfort people? Are you trying to, or do you expect a miracle? Have you redefined what miracle means? What is prayer and healing, not only in your experience, but in your ministry? Like, sometimes we want a thing for ourselves, but then we're a little more cautious when we're offering it to someone else, because we don't want them to feel, if it didn't work, that it was their fault or whatever. So we all have it's a very complex thing about desire, belief, feelings, hope, expectation, guardedness. All of this is involved when we're talking about prayer and healing. So with that in mind, say something. We'll start with Kathy, and then we'll move left. I always tend to move left, and so we'll start with Kathy. Just say something. Where do you start with this whole conversation about prayer and healing? Where do we begin?
And many of the things that you mentioned, the aspects that you mentioned of what prayer and healing is about, I've experienced throughout my whole life.
All of them.
All of them.
Yes.
Believe enough, or trust God enough, or something's working against you, so fight against it. And so knowing that, and knowing the folks in my congregation and the folks who I come across that come to me for prayer, or come to me asking, what is it about healing, or can you pray for me for healing? It is somewhat of a balancing act, because, as you mentioned, I don't want to come across as, well, I'm praying for healing, I'm laying hands on you, and if you're not healed, by whatever definition you have healing, there's something that didn't work. So I try to, if I know the person and I know their perspective on God and on the divine and healing, I work with them to come to agreement and come to alignment, like you were talking about. And the thing is to understand what healing is for them and what healing is to me. To me, healing is becoming in alignment with the divine source, with the divine power, and being one with oneself and one with the divine. And whether I still have a cold, whether I still have cancer, whether I still have the things that ail me, I don't feel that it's I've done something wrong or the divine is punishing me in some way. The healing comes within. So that healing may be a heart healing, it may be a spiritual, a divine healing, it may be at one-ment or atonement or at one-ment with the divine.
I used to tell people in my AIDS chaplain days, back when we had no effective medications, what we had was hand-holding and funerals and grit and hope, and we paint ourselves blue if we thought that would help for a minute, whatever. I used to tell people when they would say that they had HIV or they had AIDS, and I would say, yes, but does it have you? And so it's like, yes, I'm having this experience, but that's not who I am. And so there's this idea of experiencing wholeness in spite of the difficulty. And an example that I've used in healing services often is the old King James version of the crucifixion where Jesus says, "I thirst." Doesn't deny having an unpleasant experience, but he doesn't say, "I am thirsty." He never incorporates the issue into his I amness. He doesn't deny that this terrible thing is going on, but he does deny this is who I am. I thirst. I'm having this experience. It's not who I am. So he's experiencing wholeness even in the midst of the suffering. And maybe that's the setup for whatever resurrection is. It's like I get through this experience, and then there's a new experience, a better experience. So there's that. You got your own healing story, even your personal, and as well as probably people you've helped move through things. But you've got a pretty powerful story.
Yeah, all of the above. I relate to what Kathy said. I've being raised Southern Baptist and Fundamentalist Baptist later on down the line. It could be a test. Maybe it's a test. Well, I passed the test. And you did. No, you didn't pass. So, I don't know. But
can you die though, whole, perfect, and complete? Like, can your body be put to rest, and the real you is still whole? I mean, isn't that something that we?
Yeah, we say that, and the thing that I love is the idea that the body is programmed for wholeness, and we know this because if we cut ourselves, and don't do this at home,
right.
But if you cut yourself, you can almost watch your body knit back together. That's the program. We're not programmed for dis-ease or discomfort, but
when you're
for
tired and you lie
wholeness.
down, you almost immediately start feeling the rejuvenation.
Right.
Like when you start resting,
Right.
you start getting better
Right.
instantly. Now, it may
Yes.
take a year of rest, but the minute you lie down, you start feeling something happening.
Yeah.
Which is, it's trying to get to where it's supposed to be.
Well, where healing and the whole subject becomes, I think, abusive, is what I've mentioned before, metaphysical. And in the metaphysical community, which I love, but here comes the giant but. Okay, and the problem is we preach omnipresence. Okay, the Christian Science idea of omnipresence, of course, is that God is inherent in everything, and because of that, there's nothing external that needs to happen for the healing to happen. It's your mentality, your thinking, you are in alignment with it. My attitude about omnipresence is, if therefore God is omnipresent and omnipresence, that energy life force is inherent in everything, in and throughout everything, seen and unseen and all the places in between, then God has to be in the surgeon and the doctor and the medication and the insulin and all of it. And I've had more than several colleagues and friends, and one that passed away last year that didn't want to take the insulin and prayed for healing and kept claiming to be Christian Science. Well, she's still gone. Now, the question is that you raised, did she pass
You got
perfect,
such
whole,
a
and
turn of
complete?
phrase. You got such a turn of phrase.
Well, there you have it, Durrell. There you have it. But
Did she pass whole? And
we don't know that, do we?
Right.
We don't know that. The thing and it became, and I preached about this, it became more about my projection of what I thought was right for her. And I think that's a healing also.
Right.
Yes.
But yeah, you're right. I've gone through different physical challenges and things like that, and one just this past year. So I think ultimately we line up with all that we believe that we are perfect, whole, and complete, and that we do the best we can. We pray for guidance, whether it's medication, a surgeon, but do what is available and continue to pray and affirm.
Yeah, if God is everywhere, God's
Yeah.
in the medicine.
Has to be.
I had a friend that used to say a prayer and take a pill. If one doesn't work,
Yeah.
the other will.
Yeah,
It's
I like
all
that.
God,
I
you
like
know.
that.
So-
I like
It's-
that.
it's-
Yeah.
it is
Well, there
not
you
bad.
have it. Experts agree on something. We all agree that prayer is good and follow your doctor's advice. So no, but so prayer is a healing modality.
Yes.
It is.
But if we say I'm going to do one thing and not another, if we're asking about God for a thing and we're limiting how God can say yes to us,
Yeah.
we may be saying to no to God's yes rather than
There
God
you
saying
go.
no to our answer.
Well said.
I think the Apostle Paul in some translations talks about gifts of healing. Everything else is a gift of this and a gift of that, but there are gifts of healing. Apparently, it is the divine will for us to experience wholeness to such a degree that there are multiple gifts. And medicine, I think, is one of those gifts. Thank God for doctors. And certainly prayer can give us courage and comfort and strength to get through it, and maybe things work out better with it. I think it does. I've had that experience. But we've run out of time. So unless we're going to pray for more time, we've got to move on. And so prayer and healing, it is part of the healing process. And, maybe sometimes it's enough on its own. But sometimes the answer to the prayer is, now do this. And that doesn't discount the power of the prayer.
That's right.
All right. 3 out of 3 ministers agreed. And that almost never happens. So there you have it. Thanks for joining us for Sharing the Light.
Thank you for joining us for another great episode of Sharing the Light. Tell your friends about this online ministry, and when you're in Southeast Florida, make sure you worship with us on a Sunday at the 9 a.m., the 10:30 a.m., or the 6 p.m. service. And now for a final word from our senior pastor, the Reverend Dr. Durrell Watkins.
Email me at Durrell@sunshinecathedral.net if you have a religious question or if you'd like to subscribe to our daily devotional magazine, Spirit and Truth. We'll send it anywhere in the United States for an annual donation of any size. You can also email us prayer requests, or you can make donations on our website, www.sunshinecathedral.org. You'll also want to check out our great performing arts series, religious education classes, conferences, and other exciting activities. For now, we wish you many blessings on your spiritual journey.
I